Before I tell you this story, I need you to do something for me. If you've ever had to choose between your own flesh and blood and what's right, if you've ever watched someone you raised become someone you don't recognize, stay with me until the end. This story changed everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and second chances. And I promise you, the decision I made will make you question what you would do in my position. So please, subscribe and hit that notification bell, because stories like this real, raw, and unfiltered, they need to be heard. My name is Robert Chen, and for 63 years, I thought I knew exactly who I was. I was a dentist, a husband, a father, a man who believed that character was built in the small, daily choices, the way you treated a waitress, how you kept your promises, whether you stood up when things got hard or sat down when they got easy. I raised my son, Michael, with those same principles, or at least, I tried to. The autumn light was filtering through the windows of my practice on October 15th, 2019. I remember the date because it was the day my world first started cracking. I was reviewing x-rays when my phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Dad, can we talk? It's important." My chest tightened. Michael was 31 then, married to his college sweetheart, and his wife was 6 months pregnant with my first grandchild. Important, from a married man, with a baby on the way, rarely meant good news. We met at the diner on Maple Street, the same booth where I'd taken him for his first cup of coffee when he turned 13, where we'd celebrated his acceptance to law school, where I'd toasted his engagement to Sarah. The vinyl seats were still cracked in the same places. He looked different. Thinner. His eyes couldn't quite meet mine. "Dad," he started, stirring his coffee with mechanical precision. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to just listen, okay?" The hair on my neck stood up. "Go ahead." "Sarah and we're not working anymore. We haven't been for a while." He paused, and I watched his jaw work like he was chewing glass. "I've met someone else. Her name is Amber. She's 24. She makes me feel alive again, Dad. Like I'm not just going through the motions." The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. "Your wife is pregnant," I said quietly. "With your child. My grandchild." "I know." His voice cracked. "God, Dad, I know, but I can't keep pretending. Sarah and we got married too young. We grew apart. I can't spend the next 50 years in a marriage that feels like a prison sentence." Something cold settled in my stomach. "And the baby?" "I'll support the baby. Of course I will. I'm not abandoning my responsibilities. But I can't stay in a marriage that's dead just because there's a child coming. That's not fair to anyone, not to me, not to Sarah, not even to the baby." I looked at my son, this man I'd raised, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose nightmares I'd chased away, whose character I thought I'd carefully cultivated, and I barely recognized him. "Michael," I said, keeping my voice level, "you're not talking about a dead marriage. You're talking about your pregnant wife. There's a difference between a relationship that's struggling and one that's actually over. Every marriage has rough patches. Your mother and This isn't a rough patch," he interrupted. "This is me finally being honest about what I want." "What you want?" I let the words sit there. "And what Sarah wants. What your child needs." His face hardened. "I knew you wouldn't understand. I knew you'd judge me." "I'm not judging you, Michael. I'm trying to understand how the son I raised could walk away from his pregnant wife for a woman barely out of college." He stood up, throwing a 20 on the table. "Maybe the son you raised never really existed, Dad. Maybe you just saw what you wanted to see." He left me sitting there, coffee going cold, watching through the window as he got into his car and drove away. The next 3 months were a masterclass in heartbreak. Michael moved out while Sarah was at her mother's house. He texted her, didn't even have the courage to say it to her face. Just, "I've moved my things. My lawyer will be in touch. I'm sorry." I'll never forget the phone call I got from Sarah that night. She didn't cry, that would come later. Her voice was just empty. "Robert," she said, "did you know?" "No," I told her, and it was the truth. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know. Sarah, I'm so sorry. He left me. She said it like she was testing the words, seeing if they sounded real out loud. I'm 6 months pregnant, and he left me for a girl he met at a gym. A gym. My son had blown up his family for someone he'd met at a gym. My wife, Patricia, took it even harder than I did. She'd always had a blind spot for Michael. He was our only child, born after years of trying, and she'd loved him with the fierce, uncritical devotion that sometimes does more harm than good. Maybe Amber is his soulmate, Patricia said one night, her voice desperate. Maybe Sarah and Michael really weren't right for each other. I stared at my wife of 38 years. Patricia, he's abandoning his pregnant wife. He's not abandoning anyone. He said he'd support the baby. Writing checks isn't being a father. We fought about it, really fought, in a way we hadn't in decades. Patricia wanted to give Michael the benefit of the doubt, to trust that he knew what he was doing. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sarah's face, the growing curve of her belly, the way her hands shook when she signed the divorce papers. Michael tried to introduce us to Amber twice. We declined both times. Dad, you're being unfair, he said during one particularly heated phone call. You haven't even met her. She's kind, she's smart. She's 24 and dating a married man with a pregnant wife, I said. That tells me everything I need to know about her judgment. And yours. The divorce will be final soon. Sarah and I were basically over anyway. You keep telling yourself that, Michael. Maybe one day you'll believe it. Sarah gave birth to a daughter on January 3rd, 2020. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. They named her Emma Rose. Michael showed up at the hospital with flowers and balloons, playing the proud father for the nurses. I watched him hold his daughter for the first time, saw the tears in his eyes, the wonder on his face. For a moment, I thought maybe this would change things. It didn't. He stayed for 2 hours, took photos for Instagram, and then left to have dinner with Amber. Sarah told me later that he'd visited Emma 3 times in the first month of her life. 3 times. I visited every week. I held my granddaughter, changed her diapers, walked the floor with her at 2 in the morning when Sarah was so exhausted she could barely stand. I watched this young woman, barely 30 herself, navigate new motherhood alone, trying to pump breast milk between job interviews because Michael's child support didn't cover rent and daycare. I've got it, Robert, she'd say, her eyes ringed with dark circles. Really, you don't have to keep coming over. But I did. Because someone had to. Because my son sure as hell wasn't. Patricia and I grew further apart. She couldn't understand why I wouldn't forgive Michael, why I couldn't just accept his choices and move on. I couldn't understand how she could watch Sarah struggle and not feel the same rage I felt. He's our son, she'd say, and Emma is our granddaughter, I'd reply. And Sarah was family for 8 years. That doesn't just stop. Michael married Amber in a courthouse ceremony in June 2020. They didn't invite us. We learned about it from Facebook. The next 4 years passed in a strange, painful fog. Michael and I spoke maybe twice a year. Stilted conversations on holidays where we both pretended everything was fine while saying nothing of substance. He'd ask about my practice, I'd ask about his law career, and we'd both ignore the chasm between us. Patricia tried to bridge the gap. She'd have lunch with Michael and Amber, send them care packages, like grandparents do. She'd come home and tell me stories about their renovated townhouse, their vacation to Costa Rica, Amber's promotion at her marketing firm. They seem happy, she'd say, almost pleading with me to agree. I'd just nod and go back to my book. Emma grew. First words, first steps, first day of preschool. I was there for all of it. Michael saw his daughter maybe once every 2 or 3 months, usually for a few hours on a Sunday afternoon. He'd take her for ice cream, buy her whatever toy she pointed at, and then drop her back off, responsibility discharged. Sarah eventually started dating again, a guy named Tom who worked in IT, who showed up to Emma's preschool recitals and taught her to ride a bike. He was good to them, kind, present, everything Michael wasn't. I watched my son become a stranger who happened to share my DNA. Then came October 2024. I was at the practice when Michael called. Not texted, called. That alone was unusual enough to make my receptionist raise her eyebrows. "Dad." His voice sounded wrong, thin, desperate. "Can we meet today?" Something in his tone made my stomach drop. "What's wrong?" I need to talk to you, please." "The diner on Maple Street?" 45 minutes later, I walked into that same booth where he'd told me about Amber 5 years earlier. The vinyl was still cracked in the same places. But Michael looked like he'd aged a decade. His suit hung loose on a frame that had lost at least 20 pounds. His face was gaunt, stubble uneven like he'd forgotten to shave, or couldn't remember if he had. His hands trembled as he gripped his coffee cup. "Jesus, Michael. What happened?" He laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "You mean besides karma finally catching up with me? Just tell me." He took a breath, let it out, took another. "Amber left me," he said flatly. 2 months ago. Served me with divorce papers at my office. She met someone else. A partner at a rival firm. Guy's 45. Makes 3 times what I make. Has a beach house in the Hamptons." He laughed again. "Ironic, right?" I didn't say anything. There was more coming. "But that's not even the worst part, Dad. The worst part is, the firm let me go. They said it was restructuring, but I know what it was. Amber's new boyfriend has connections. He made some calls. And just like that, 10 years of building my career, gone." He looked up at me then, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen since he was a child. Fear. "I can't pay my mortgage, Dad. I can't pay my car payment. I can barely pay for groceries. I've been applying to jobs for 8 weeks, and I've gotten exactly 2 interviews. My reputation is, apparently when you leave your pregnant wife, people remember. Funny how that works." The silence stretched between us. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked quietly. His face crumpled. "Because I need help. I need a place to stay until I get back on my feet. Dad, I'm drowning here. I'm living off credit cards. I'm going to lose everything." Everything inside me went still. "You want to move in with me and your mother? Just temporarily. A few months, max. Just until I find something steady." His voice cracked. "Please, Dad. I know I've made mistakes. I know I've disappointed you, but I'm your son. I'm asking for help." I looked at this man, my son, my only child, and felt a complicated tangle of emotions I couldn't even begin to name. Love, anger, pity, resentment, grief for who he could have been. "When's the last time you saw Emma?" I asked. He blinked. "What? Your daughter?" "Emma. When did you last see her?" His face flushed. "I don't see what that has to do." "Answer the question, Michael." "I don't know. June? Maybe July? She turned 4 in January." "You missed her birthday." Again. "I sent a card. And a present. You sent money to assuage your guilt." I leaned forward. "Michael, your daughter barely knows you. Sarah has a good man in her life now who's been more of a father to Emma than you've ever been. You walked away from them when they needed you most. You chose Amber. Chose your own happiness over your responsibilities." "I know," he said, and tears started streaming down his face. "God, Dad, I know. I think about it every day. I see pictures of Emma on Facebook and I barely recognize her. I've missed everything. And I can't get that time back." "No," I said softly. "You can't." He wiped his face with his napkin. "So what does that mean? I made mistakes, so I deserve to lose everything? To end up homeless? You're my father. You're supposed to help me, no matter what." And there it was, the question that had been building for 5 years. Was he right? Did being his father mean I owed him unconditional support, even when he'd shown so little character, even when he'd hurt people I loved? "Let me ask you something," I said. "Why didn't you go to Amber's family? Or her, even? Surely she's not cutting you off completely." His laugh was hollow. "Amber's family thinks I'm exactly what I am. A guy who abandons his pregnant wife. They want nothing to do with me. And Amber? He shook his head. She told me I was a learning experience. That's what 5 years of my life amounted to. A learning experience. And Sarah? Have you asked her for help? His face went pale. I can't, Dad. How could I possibly? How could you possibly ask the woman you abandoned for help? I finished. Yes, Michael. How could you? This is different. Sarah hates me. Sarah has every right to hate you. But you know what? She doesn't. She's moved on. Built a life. She's happy, as much as she can be. And you know why? Because she had to be. Because she had a daughter to raise and no choice but to figure it out. I paused, watching him absorb this. You had choices, Michael. Every step of the way, you had choices. You chose to cheat on your pregnant wife, chose to leave, chose to show up in Emma's life, just enough to ease your conscience, but not enough to actually be her father. And now you're here, asking me to help you avoid the consequences of all those choices. So that's it? His voice rose, drawing looks from other diners. You're just going to abandon me, your own son. The word abandon hung in the air like an accusation. No, I said slowly. I'm not going to abandon you, but I'm not going to enable you either. I reached into my wallet and pulled out a business card. This is the name of a friend of mine who runs a non-profit housing organization. They help people who are between jobs, facing eviction. It's not luxury, but it's safe and clean. I'll call him tonight and tell him to expect your call. Michael stared at the card like it was a snake. I'll also reach out to some contacts in the legal field. See if anyone's hiring. No promises, but I'll make some calls. That's it? He said. That's all you're going to do? No. I leaned back. Here's what else I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the chance to fix what you broke. Not with me, with Emma. With Sarah. His eyes widened. What are you talking about? Your daughter needs a father, Michael. Not presents. Not occasional ice cream trips. An actual father. Someone who shows up. Who keeps promises. Who puts her first. Sarah won't. She's with Tom now. She won't let me. Sarah has always let you be part of Emma's life. You're the one who chose not to be. But here's your opportunity. You've got time now. No job, no wife, nothing but time. So use it. Show up at Emma's school pickup. Go to her soccer games. Have dinner with her twice a week. Read her bedtime stories. Be present. And if I do that, you'll help me? Let me move in? I shook my head. I'll help you regardless, within reason. But this isn't about earning my support, Michael. This is about you becoming the man you should have been 5 years ago, the man I thought I raised. Tears were flowing freely down his face now. I don't know if I can do this. Then you'll lose more than your house and your job, I said quietly. You'll lose any chance of having a relationship with your daughter, with me, with anyone who actually matters. I stood up, pulled out my own wallet, left money for both our coffees. The choice is yours, Michael. It always has been, but this time, make the right one. I walked out of that diner, got in my car, and sat there for 10 minutes, with my hands on the wheel, shaking. Michael called the housing non-profit the next day. He moved into a small studio apartment they provided, basic, clean, one step up from a shelter. Patricia was furious with me. How could you let your son live in a place like that? He should be here, with us. He's a grown man who made choices, I said. And he needs to understand that choices have consequences. You're being cruel. No, I'm being a father. Maybe for the first time in a long time. That hurt her. I could see it in her face. But it was true. We'd both enabled Michael in different ways, me with my silence, her with her excuses. 3 days after our meeting at the diner, Michael showed up at Sarah's house unannounced. She called me immediately afterward, voice tight with confusion and anger. Robert, what did you say to him? He showed up here asking if he could take Emma to the park. He was crying. I didn't know what to do. What did you say? I said yes. I mean, she's his daughter. But Robert, He's never just shown up like that. Never asked to spend time with her outside his scheduled visits. What's going on? I think he's trying, I said. That's all. Just give him a chance. But trust your instincts. If anything feels wrong, I will. Tom's here. He's not thrilled, but he understands. Michael started showing up twice a week, then 3 times, then 4. Sarah sent me updates, cautious at first, skeptical, but slowly warming. He came to Emma's parent-teacher conference, she texted in November. First one he's ever attended. He took notes. He asked about her nut allergy. Came another text in December. Wanted to make sure he knew what to watch for. Robert, I don't understand what's changed, but it's good. Whatever you said to him. Christmas was awkward. Michael spent Christmas Eve with Emma and Sarah, then came to our house on Christmas Day. He looked thin, tired, but something in his eyes was different. Clearer, maybe. I got a job, he said over dinner. Nothing fancy. Document review for a small firm. It's boring work, pays half what I used to make, but it's something. Patricia beamed. I just nodded. And Emma? I asked. His face softened in a way I hadn't seen in years. She's amazing, Dad. She's so smart. She's reading already, did you know that? Chapter books. And she's funny, she does these impressions of her teachers that are just... He laughed, a real laugh. I've missed so much. Yes, I said, you have, but I'm not going to miss any more. He looked at me directly. I know I can't make up for the lost time. I know I can't undo the damage, but I'm going to show up every day I can. For the rest of her life, I'm going to show up. Good, I said simply. January 2025 brought a surprise. Michael called me on a Saturday morning. Dad, can you come over to my apartment? I need to show you something. I found him in that tiny studio, walls covered with drawings Emma had made for him. Photos of them together at the park, at a museum, at her soccer games. A calendar on the wall with her events marked in red ink. I'm not asking to move in, he said before I could speak. I know you said I could, if I did the work, but I don't want to. This place, it's small, and it's not fancy, but it's mine. I'm paying for it. I'm responsible for it. And I need to do this on my own. Pride flickered in my chest. Okay, but I wanted to show you this. He handed me a letter, handwritten. I wrote to Sarah. A real apology. Not asking for forgiveness, just owning what I did, what I put her through. I wanted you to read it before I gave it to her. I read it. It was honest, raw, no excuses, no justifications, just acknowledgement of the pain he'd caused and a commitment to be better. This is good, Michael, I said, handing it back. I joined a therapy group, he added, for divorced dads trying to rebuild relationships with their kids. It's helping. Hearing other guys' stories, realizing I'm not the only one who screwed up, but also realizing that screwing up doesn't have to be the end. We talked for 2 hours that day. Really talked, maybe for the first time since he was a teenager. He told me about the shame that ate at him every day, the regret that kept him up at night. He told me about the moment he realized Amber never really loved him. She loved the idea of him, the excitement of the affair, but not the actual person. I think I knew all along, Dad, that it wasn't real with Amber, but admitting that would have meant admitting I destroyed my family for nothing. So I just kept pretending. And now I'm done pretending. About everything. Emma's 5th birthday party was at a trampoline park in March 2025. Sarah invited us, me, Patricia, Michael, Tom's family. It could have been awkward. Probably should have been. But something miraculous happened. I watched Tom help Emma with her cake, while Michael tied her little brothers Tom and Sarah's son's shoe. I watched Sarah laugh at something Michael said, a real laugh, not forced. I watched Emma bounce between all the adults in her life, soaking up love from every direction. She's lucky, Patricia said, standing next to me. All these people who love her, she is. Patricia took my hand the first time in months she'd initiated physical contact. You were right, About Michael. About making him face what he did instead of just sweeping it under the rug. And you were right that he's still our son. That he deserves a chance to change. We were both right. We were both wrong. That's how it goes with family. Michael pulled me aside before we left. Dad, I know I still have a long way to go. I know I'm still earning back trust. But I wanted to say, thank you for not just giving me what I wanted, for giving me what I needed. I gripped his shoulder. You did the work, Michael, not me. You gave me the chance to do the work. That's what matters. In April, Michael got a better job, not his old salary, but respectable, enough to move into a nicer apartment, one with a bedroom for Emma to stay over. Sarah and Tom got engaged in May. Michael was the first person Sarah told after her own family. I want to make sure you're okay with this, she said to him, voice careful. Sarah, Michael replied, and I heard this secondhand from Patricia, who heard it from Sarah's mother. You don't need my permission to be happy. I lost that right a long time ago. But for what it's worth, Tom's a good man. Better than I was. I'm glad Emma has him in her life. I'm glad you do too. That's growth. That's redemption, as much as any of us get in this life. It's December 2025 now. I'm sitting in my study, writing this story, trying to make sense of the last 6 years. Michael isn't perfect. He still makes mistakes, still has moments where the old selfishness creeps in. But he shows up. He keeps showing up. Emma knows her father now, really knows him. She talks about Daddy and Tom in the same breath. 2 men who love her, 2 men who are trying their best. Last week, Michael brought Emma to my house for dinner. Just the 3 of us, since Patricia was at her book club. Emma showed me her report card, all A's, and told me about her new obsession with dinosaurs. Did you know that velociraptors were actually really small? She said seriously, her face so much like Michael's, it hurt my heart. And they had feathers. They weren't scary at all. After dinner, after Emma fell asleep on the couch mid-movie, Michael and I sat in the kitchen with coffee. I saw Amber last week, he said suddenly. At a restaurant. She was with her husband. They have a baby. How did that feel? He thought about it. Sad. A little. Not because I want her back or anything, just sad for the time I wasted. The things I lost chasing something that was never real. Do you regret it? All of it? He looked at me with those eyes that were wiser now, sadder, but clearer. I can't regret Emma. Even if I wish I'd been there from the start, I can't regret that she exists. But everything else? The way I handled it? Yeah, Dad, I regret it every day. Good, I said. That means you learned something. He smiled, a real smile, not the cocky one from before. When I came to you that day at the diner, asking for help, I was so angry when you wouldn't just let me move in. I thought you were punishing me, being vindictive. And now I understand you were saving me, not from being homeless or broke, from becoming someone who never takes responsibility for anything, someone who expects other people to clean up his messes. He paused, coffee cup halfway to his lips. You know what the worst part about losing everything was? It wasn't the money or the job or even Amber. It was looking in the mirror and realizing I'd become exactly what I judged other people for being. A deadbeat dad. A man who broke his promises. Someone who prioritized his own comfort over everyone else's well-being. And what's the best part about having lost everything? Finding out who I actually am when all the bullshit is stripped away. And realizing I can still be someone worth being. People ask me sometimes, usually in the comments, when I share pieces of this story online, what I would have done differently. If I'd make the same choice again. The truth is, I don't know. I didn't have a manual for this. No guidebook on how to love your child while refusing to enable his worst instincts. How to draw boundaries that hurt you as much as they hurt him. How to believe in redemption while still demanding accountability. What I do know is this. Unconditional love doesn't mean unconditional approval. It doesn't mean pretending everything's fine when it's not. It doesn't mean shielding someone from consequences they need to face. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone hit bottom. Let them feel the full weight of their choices. Give them the chance to climb back up on their own, knowing you're there at the top, waiting, ready to celebrate when they make it. Michael made it. Battered, humbled, changed, but he made it. And Emma, God, Emma. She has a father now, not a perfect one, but a present one. A man who shows up at her school plays and knows the names of her friends and reads her dinosaur books even though he's exhausted from work. A man who's trying, every day, to be worthy of the title Dad. That 5-year-old girl has something I couldn't give her, a father who chose her. Not out of obligation, not out of guilt, but out of genuine love and understanding of what really matters. Last month, Emma drew a picture in kindergarten. The teacher had asked them to draw their families. Emma's picture showed 6 people. Her mom, Tom, their baby, me, Patricia, and Michael. All holding hands in front of a house, all smiling. "Who's this?" the teacher asked, pointing at Michael. "That's my daddy," Emma said. "He's learning to be the best daddy ever. Grampy is teaching him." When Sarah told me that story, I cried, really cried, for the first time since this whole mess began. Because that's the thing about second chances, they're not about erasing the past. They're about writing a different future. They're about looking at your mistakes square in the face and saying, "I did this, I own this, and I'm going to do better." Michael is doing better. Not perfect, not even close, but better. And that's enough. That's more than enough. So here's what I said when my son begged me for help. "I'll help you, but not by rescuing you from your consequences. I'll help you by giving you the chance to become who you should have been all along." It was the hardest thing I've ever said. It was also the most important. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to make an impossible choice between enabling someone you love and holding them accountable, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below sharing your experience. Subscribe to this channel, because these stories matter. Real stories about real people, facing real consequences and real redemption. And if you're someone who's made mistakes like Michael did, if you're someone who needs to hear that change is possible, that it's never too late to show up and do better, this is your sign. Make that call. Send that text. Start showing up. The people you love are waiting. Thank you for staying until the end. This story changed my life. I hope, in some small way, it changes yours too. Hit that like button, subscribe, and remember, love without boundaries isn't love. It's just enabling dressed up in a prettier package. Until next time.